Producer Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes in a new area. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast. Fans, welcome back for Working Fans Saturday, episode 46. This week, the man they call Dave and AJ Strangebrew will be talking their favorite live wrestling experiences, as well as their top 5 favorite moments of the week. Check us out next week when we discuss the top sellers of all time. We're not talking tickets. We're not talking books. We are talking when you get an arm hold on, who sells that pain the best. Now I'm going to play the intro real quick, and we'll bring in Dave and AJ to talk top live favorite wrestling experiences.
Whoa! Hey, everybody. Still AJ. It's me and you, baby. Live show.
What is going on, Working Fans? Woo!
Now
It is time to go live on the Buzz Network. Share us with your friends. Share us everywhere. Randy Oscar, where you at, motherfucker?
AJ, let's start off with a new segment we started last week. Top 5 moments of the week. I will go first. Give you a little time to prepare here. Some things that I'm loving. One of the things hasn't actually happened yet, but I'm excited about it. Nick Gage versus Jon Moxley tonight, GCW Championship. The anticipation has got me. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this so much that I am buying the Wilder Fury heavyweight title match, boxing tonight. And I'm having on another TV, Mox and Gage. Because I want to see this. And I'm not a big deathmatch guy, but I love this. They knew each other years ago. They were feuded. They're friends. And Mox has showed up on Dynamite with a GCW shirt. Mox is the GCW heavyweight champion right now. And I think this has been very well done. I'm excited about that.
How about the return of the American Wolves on that, too?
And also, Effie, who you just met recently, is taking on Matt Cardona. And if Matt Cardona, he has to retire from GCW, which will be interesting. Because
dude, let me tell you something. I saw Effie at the trivia night that I went to recently where they had wrestling and trivia, and Effie is out of this world. What a great worker, great wrestler, and that is going to be a hell of a match.
That would be a great segue into our next topic of live experiences. But since we're not quite done yet, let me go with my second top 5. Bryan Danielson. I put this guy in a category in itself this week because last week I had mentioned his match with Nick Jackson.
Yeah.
And what I remember about this match was he beat the shit out of Nick Jackson.
Yes.
And I thought, even heel-like at times, he's grabbing him by the nose and everything like that. And this week, I watched him in that 10-man tag, and he's just awesome. And he was always just awesome. And now he's almost like he's a different wrestler. And it's crazy to me because he was so good at WWE, and he's obviously was good before that, but he's like it's like he took the things he did in WWE, and took the things he did in Ring of Honor, and he's added some more stuff. I bet Effie does wear sandals.
But not with socks, hopefully.
Yoshihiro Tajiri, I put him in this category this week. He returned on Fightland, MLW. They had a big show in Philadelphia. He won the MLW middleweight title. He looks great. The fucking guy looks timeless in the ring. So happy to see Tajiri back in North America. I hope that MLW, the fact that they put the middleweight title on him, maybe that's a good sign that we'll be getting around for more shows. Also on that same card, Hammerstone and Fatu.
Yeah.
Great match, great moment for Alexander Hammerstone, a guy who was the heavy for MJF and Richard Holiday for a little while. Now he became comedic, and now he's just a serious guy again. He's the world champion. He's the national champion. And Jacob Fatu ended a great reign. That Fightland card as a whole does for some of my top 5 of the week. AJ,
I thought that was all one from the
Fightland. I could have put it as one, but I decided to divide it up into 2. I gave Tajiri his own moment.
I'm with you. Believe it or not, Tajiri is a moment on mine. Just because we are big. People might not know this. We're Tajiri marks. We've always loved him with what he did with Regal. Loved him what he was in ECW. All those great matches was super crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, just one of my favorite workers of all time, and he still looks the freaking same, for Christ's sakes.
So good.
It's absolutely terrifying. So he's definitely one of my tops. I'm with you with Bryan Danielson. I think he stole the show in that 10-man match. It's so easy in a 10-man match not to have anything stand out because so many people are doing so many things. And this guy is just standing out every time he comes in. His promos are on fire. His moves are on fire. So that's definitely a big moment for me.
I left something out, but go ahead. I'll see if you get it.
I'm putting Serena Deebs in there this week.
That's also a good one too.
I think what she did for women's wrestling this week and for herself with her heel, what she does is so subtle but so strong. She's using some heel tendencies, but still winning legitimately, and then coming back in and hitting her with the trophy. She just stole the show to me on Wednesday night. Another great moment this week to me was actually the Hammerstone Fatu match. Jacob Fatu was a champion for so long for MLW. To hold that title as long as he did, he made that belt mean something. But Hammerstone, if you've ever seen him wrestle anywhere around the country, he works his ass off. He really is that guy who can do anything. He showed personality. He shows his ability in the ring. And a big fan of the guy. So to see him come over and get the title and them to put the belt, it truly meant something. And then my last moment of the week is actually not necessarily a positive moment. It's more of a negative moment. And the reason why I'm going with this is because I think it's time to just let it go. Goldberg. I know the crowd still goes for him, but I'm at a point right now where I'm almost concerned not only for himself, for others that he's working with, but for himself. That's only a matter of time before he legitimately gets severely injured. And if you are going to put him in there, don't put him in there with Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley's literally a killer. That's the so for me, one of the worst moments of the week this week was actually Bobby Lashley and Goldberg.
Now, I think we both dropped the ball. There was one thing we forgot to mention this week that had to make the top 5 list. I don't know how we forgot it.
Steiner's kid and Ciampa.
Page.
Oh, sorry.
Hangman Page back. And the reaction he got.
Oh,
it
huge.
Was unbelievable.
Huge.
It was so unbelievable.
So that was a moment that almost made my thing because I love Hangman Page. The problem is that they keep stringing us along with this, and now he gets a title shot sometime in the next year. We're not sure when, but he gets a title shot somewhere. It looks an awful lot like Money in the Bank. So that takes a little bit away from the moment for me. Another moment that almost made my top is actually Rick Steiner's kid is going to be going head to head with Ciampa for the title, for the NXT title at Halloween Havoc. And this reminds me a lot of the initial push that Goldberg got, because this kid, but the difference is this kid can work his ass off, and you see the genetics there, and he might be one of the best second generations that I've seen so far when it just comes to pure talent. So
very good. Keep an eye on Braun Breaker, folks.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to call him that.
Yeah,
I want to call him Steiner so bad.
Understandable. All right, now on to our next topic, our favorite live show experiences, which is funny because me and you have been to a lot of live shows together.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you about a live show you went to one time. I don't know if it makes your list because it's one of the few ones I know you went to. I didn't get to go to.
Yeah, please.
And so me and AJ started talking in high school, and we became friends there, and we both liked wrestling. And I remember I surprised you because one day you asked me, do you know who Razor Ramon used to be? And I said, oh, Scott Hall? And at first I think I said, well, I said, like, he was the Diamond Stud. You're like, that's not what I'm talking about. I was like, you mean Scott Hall? You're like, what? And so you're like, how do you know that? Nobody knew that stuff back then.
Yeah, because most WWE fans back then did not just know that shit. And once you popped up on the WWE, they were like, oh, well, that's who this person is.
And we had to like figure it out because obviously we looked at magazines and stuff. But I remember I had told you, oh, yeah, Goldust is Dustin Rhodes. And that one really pissed you off because you weren't sure because you really loved the Texas Prasad. And you're like, the fuck you mean it's called Dustin Rhodes? So I went to him, like, go listen to him. And then you went back that weekend. And you're like, oh, shit. Anyway, one of the events I remember you got to go to, I was really jealous of, was Royal Rumble. I want to say it was 94. The Undertaker had basically floated above the arena.
Yeah.
And there was also, was
that
the same one?
It was definitely a great moment.
Where Luger and Brett went over to for the tie?
Yeah, yes, that was the tie when they went over the top, and they couldn't figure out who touched first.
Was that your first WWE pay-per-view you ever went to?
Pay-per-view, yes.
Okay.
The first WWF event I ever went to was actually headlined by Hulk Hogan versus Killer Khan. So.
Oh, there you go. Now, did you go to, before I knew you, like, obviously there was independence, but there was no WCW, NWA shows that came around.
No,
right?
The shows that I had been to before that were usually put on by guys like Killer Kowalski, stuff of that nature. I got to see Perry Saturn before he was actually in the Eliminators. And then the headline of that match, the big main event that they had, was actually Tony Falk. I don't know if you remember Tony Falk.
World Class Wrestling Days, Texas. Yep.
Versus the Honky Tonk Man.
This was Grizzled High School, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I never got to go to that show.
That was a fun one.
I got, some of my favorite shows we went to. I think these are obvious favorites. WrestleMania 14, me and you went to. Austin versus HBK. Austin wins the title. We've talked about that on this show before. Mike Tyson's involved. Just a crazy, crazy show. I also have WrestleMania 11, just because even though it wasn't the best WrestleMania, it was my first time going to a WrestleMania.
You're there live, and it's WrestleMania, for Christ's sake. How do you not?
Yeah. But one other show I want to put down here is we went to a Monday Night Raw one time in Worcester, Massachusetts, I want to say it was. And this was the night we showed up. And I want to say it was like the first Raw is War they were doing. They had the ramp out and everything because we were like, what the hell is going on here? And this was also the night ECW guys had showed up. Remember they had like Rob Van Dam and everything like that? That was a credit. I enjoyed that show just for that experience.
And that crowd was very lively because that was an ECW crowd. That Worcester area, it was another place where ECW would hold events. So the crowd was very familiar with who came out. If they had done that in a different venue other than the Northeast, they might not have gotten the recognition for the ECW guys that they got that night from us.
Now, AJ, here's something. I know that you don't always remember these things. Like, you're very much in the moment. So we went to a WCW Nitro in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that event? What sticks out?
Not a goddamn thing.
I was hoping you'd give me something. So For me, I know you're going to remember once I say
I
these
don't even remember who was on the card.
The perfect plex on the Giant. That's what I
Oh
remember.
yeah.
That's
All
also
right,
Sting came out at the end, and it was fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah, now I remember. Yeah,
You
that
don't
was
remember?
awesome. I don't remember a goddamn thing.
Do you remember who else we went with?
Jake St. John.
It was not Jake St. John. It was Jeff Way.
Oh God, maybe that's why I don't remember it. I hate that motherfucker.
Oh man, it's been years, AJ. He's probably a totally different guy now.
Yeah,
You remember?
it was an obnoxious prick.
He what do I guys think get along? Weird. Anyway, so he had on a jersey. He had on a New York Jets jersey, Keyshawn Johnson.
Yes,
and he wore the Worcester crowd
in the middle of New England. Yes,
was not happy.
Wait a minute, who wore that jersey?
It was Jeff Way, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
That explains why Keyshawn did so well.
On that note,
so I thought for sure your favorite moment for a live event was going to be seeing a guy do the Harlem Hangover and land directly on my head.
I did not remember to mention when you went to the ring the one time I saw you wrestle. Yeah, I did not put that on there.
Dave was my good luck charm. I'm laid out in the middle of the ring, and the guy decides to do a Harlem Hangover and lands with his ass directly on my face, which it's bad enough getting a guy's ass in your face, but from the top rope is really not the best way to have that.
Not at all. Now, also a 300-pound man that was in the match with you, your partner, who crawled between the much smaller guy's legs to make the hot tag. I'll never forget who's a heel. I've
never looked more confused in my life than when I saw that happen in front of me.
I was like, what is going on here? Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in terms of live shows that stick out. We went to I was gonna say I
have some live show memories so I went to Royal Rumble in Boston. That was a good time. That's
the 40-man one, right?
Yeah, I went to the 40-man one. That's the one where Kevin Nash returned, Booker T returned. Kevin Nash came out with the jet black hair all of a sudden, and I got to tell you, the feeling that you got from that crowd that night when he came out, when Booker T came out, believe it or not, the pops were so freaking loud. I don't know if it transcended onto the TV, but people love when people make returns, and they went absolutely batshit crazy for that.
Hey, let's do this one more time. Let's play another game. We went to the D-Generation X pay-per-view in Springfield, Massachusetts. What can you tell me about that show? Anything stick out at all?
I remember DX being on it. Yes, that was good.
No. That actually was when Triple H took on Sergeant Slaughter in a boot camp match.
I do remember that. The bump that Slaughter took over the turnbuckle. He went flying over the turnbuckle. And I remember thinking to myself, that man's over 50 years old. That is a horrible fucking bump to take.
And this was also Shawn Michaels versus Ken Shamrock for the world title. I want to say this is the one where Shawn yelled out clothesline. Might not have been.
I don't know if it was audible on the actual show, but I know in the audience that we could not believe how audible it was to us when he's literally yelling at him, clothesline.
So we're going to answer that question real quick. Didn't see it. I just want to say also that was where Owen Hart came back too after the Montreal screw job, which was pretty cool. Now, AJ, why don't we answer this man? It's going to be Kofi Weedston, Dirty Heels. What's the one move that you won't take in the ring? Was there ever a move? Did you ever say?
So here's the funny thing is the one move that I have never taken and will never take, and this is it's a pretty simple move, is a backdrop. I do not like going ass over head. And there's just something uncomfortable about it. Exactly. I don't like the idea of landing on my neck like that. And it's actually, believe it or not, a very simple move. All you got to do is just prop your hands and you go over and momentum takes you and you're safe. But I cannot stand it. I have never taken one and I will never take a backdrop.
Oh, my goodness. Tremendous SmackDown and Rampage last night. I did not actually get to see SmackDown, but I did not like the results of what I saw. But anyway.
But here's the funny thing about that. I will not take a backdrop, but I have been superplexed and I've been thrown directly over the ropes without touching the ropes and landed completely on my goddamn head, but I will not take a backdrop.
So yeah, and then I know Dirty Heels will talk to CM Punk. Let's talk a little bit about Rampage last night before we close the show here, and we'll talk
Absolutely.
a little SmackDown too. So CM Punk, Daniel Garcia.
Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia is fantastic. That's the
so
kid.
Good.
Yeah, his selling is fantastic. The way he works holds is fantastic. By the way, kudos to CM Punk because he is doing literally what he said he would do. Even though he's going over in these matches with Darby Allin, Daniel Garcia, everybody he's working with, Hobbs, he's leaving the ring, and yes, he's getting his hand raised, but every time he leaves that ring at the end, that person that he worked with is elevated.
He's having competitive matches with all these people. He's making them look strong.
He is elevating the shit out of this talent. And he did the same thing again last night for Daniel Garcia.
It's like he's just added to the show right now. Like he's not in a hurry to sink his teeth in a storyline or anything. And he's going to come out in pants one week. He's going to come out in tights one week. He's just going to do little things different, I think. I don't think he wants to be. Well, he said on other things, too, that he's hoping to do some 6-man matches and just be involved in stuff.
He is doing what he complained about for years in the WWE. He complained for years in the WWE that other people were out for themselves and not actually helping to grow the talent and helping to grow the people that can further your storylines for years. He is coming out and not being a hypocrite, and he is helping to grow people. He is making names for people, and he is growing the product, and he is just being quite frankly, the seasoning, when he could easily come out there and just be the biggest star on the show. Although Daniel Bryan might argue that.
Let's jump topics here a little bit too, because I was thinking about last night's show, the TBS Women's Championship. What are your thoughts on this?
I love the idea of having a secondary belt for the women. I think that they have so much women's talent now on that show that they really have elevated to me to be the best women's wrestling in America at this point. I mean, obviously there are other organizations around the world that can argue with that. That being said, watch out for WOW. When Jeannie Buss, who is the owner of the Lakers, is going to be in control of this thing, that's Tony Khan almost money. So this could be the biggest amount of money that you see put into women's wrestling in a very long time. And they have a deal with CBS, for Christ's sakes.
Could be interesting. Now, so TBS Women's title, who do you think is going to get the belt? Early odds on favorite for your book.
I mean, obviously Jade Cargill's got to be in there for an early favorite.
I think Cargill or Rosa is kind of the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, right? I would rather see somebody who can work with the belt. I like Cargill, but I don't think she can work with everybody, whereas Rosa can actually work with everyone. So I think she's a better choice for that way. If you're going character-driven, though, and you want her just to go into beast mode and make it so that people are trying to slay the giant, then Cargill is a good choice too.
Okay, just again, we're going to start doing random here. Iron Anderson, the promos, the stuff he's doing with Cody.
His promos are fantastic. It's a dream come true. I like what he's doing with Cody. I think that in the long run, it's leaning towards him actually motivating Cody, but I'm going to tell you, I would rather go in a different way. I would rather it seem like he's motivating him and then just completely be a swerve and he ends up turning on him. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. But I love what's going on there.
Absolutely. I think we're kind of touched on enough stuff here. Is there anything you want?
Wait a minute. Yeah, I want to touch on something.
Okay.
How about Malachi Black again this week?
Malachi Black, taking out Dante Martin.
Dante Martin's a good young kid. He's a good wrestler. He's doing a great job. I like the fact that he is calling people out. And I love the fact that now Aleister Black's making it clear that he doesn't care if you're a good guy, bad guy. You call someone out, you're going to get kicked in the freaking skull. And I love his ministry.
Yeah, so interesting is with Malachi Black that now Leo Rush is working with Dante, and Leo Rush said, I can get you a match with CM Punk, the Matt Sydal, and they have a match set up next week.
I like the fact that he said he could get him a match booked, and then within the next segment he had the match booked.
Yeah, literally, they hadn't even wasn't even that long. It was like almost like they taped Sauerbr's voice in it. He was like, "And next week that match has been made by Tony Khan."
Yeah, I was
Weird.
I was like, maybe for the story purposes, you should come back later in the show and say that he was able to.
Yeah, you can
But
still
yeah,
dub it in. But yeah,
yeah.
I thought it was interesting.
I do like Leo Rush's character thus far. I like that Matt Sydal called him out as being just selling crap.
Mhm.
That's that's an interesting way. But to me, Malachi Black is one of those guys that is stealing the show every week on frickin' AEW Dynamite and on all their shows, quite frankly.
Who's the first to take the title off of Kenny Omega?
Oh God, oh,
He was at the Philadelphia show. He got some pictures and stuff taken. So that's what he's referring to.
whoa, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, the famous Daniel Backley.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Dan.
Archer put his hands on him, actually.
That's Archer once put his hands on Dave too, but it was more romantic.
So, who do you think will be the first to take this belt for Hangman Page? If you had to guess.
You just said take the belt off of Hangman Page.
I think it's gonna be Hangman.
I was actually going to say the same thing, so I'm glad you said that. Yeah. I was like, wow, so you agree with me? He's going to beat Omega.
Yeah. So you're a little upset that they're like stringing this storyline along, but you do think this is where it's going to end. Hangman is going to get the belt off.
And let me be straight with you. I don't have a problem with there being a long storyline. I just am not necessarily a fan of Hangman being off TV for as much time. And I know he just had a baby. I know that's why he's off TV. That's fine. I get it. I do. I just think that there's a better way to bring him back in. Quite frankly, I would like to see Omega versus Bryan Danielson, and somehow Omega finds a way to cheat to win, and have Hangman come out and save him at that point, and actually be the savior at that point. Because to me, that would have made Hangman Page a little bit more.
I will say this. I think it was Backley who told me this recently too. After the next pay-per-view, Full Gear, I believe Dynamite has got a taping in Virginia. So there you go.
Yeah, that's the home state. The home state for Hangman Page.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, man. That could be the booking right there. And they are doing, I think, a little tournament to have somebody face Omega at the next pay-per-view. Well,
the funny thing is that unlike WWE, who feels it's necessary to embarrass people in their hometown, the AEW has a tendency of putting people over in their hometown. So that could definitely be something to watch out for. What do you think of the Dark Order this week?
What did the fact that they're back on the same page?
The fact that they seem to be back on the same page, the fact that they're back connected. Are they going to at some point get a leader?
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, it almost feels like we're getting away from that a little bit. And ideally, that's what I'd like. I'd like to see them end up with a Bray Wyatt or somebody to kind of lead them. Yeah. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but,
So here's the reason why I asked this question. It was a loaded question. I actually don't like the fact that they brought them back together. I think you needed to have friction until you find a leader. I think that at one point, have the friction, have them all brawling, lights go out, and then lights come back on. Bray Wyatt, middle of the ring, and he says to him, "What are you guys doing? It is time to follow the buzzards."
Yeah, I think it's the thing that bothered me is like, I guess I agree. I didn't really like it because to me it made me feel like, what was the point of all that?
Yeah, it basically made everything pointless.
Yeah, but maybe they'll still continue fighting. We'll see. That's one thing about AEW is they do little breadcrumbs and they think they're going to change it, and they sometimes don't. So we'll see.
And they should definitely put the mask back on him.
On Howard Angels.
Yeah.
Howard Angels number 5. Shout out to 5.
Yeah. He's number 5 because that's where he rates between 1 and 10.
5 in all our hearts. But anything else?
No, I think that we've covered most of the week in wrestling. I would like to say a quick thank you. I know I'm usually the heel, but I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Thank you to everybody who supports us each week. Make sure you find us on all of our outlets. I know that it's all down there at the bottom and you can read it and stuff, but it makes a big difference for us when you tune in and you leave reviews for us. We could definitely use those reviews. Go to your Apple, go to your YouTube, go to every digital media, Spotify. We're on everything that you can find people on. Amazon. You can find us on Audible. You can find us in so many places. Whichever one's easiest for you, find us there, rate us, and make sure you leave a review, because it's great to get the 5 stars, but people want to know how you feel about the show, what clicks, what doesn't click. We read the reviews. It helps us out. So please, all you fans, go out there, do this for us. We appreciate you. We love you. And we're going to keep entertaining you every week.
And shout out to the Dirty Heels. Thanks for dropping by today.
Yeah,
guys.
Dirty Heels, thank you for stopping in. Daniel Backley, thank you for stopping in.
Randy Osgood.
Randy Osgood, you know, I love the fact that you're my number one fan. And when I do get back in the ring, that match is going to be for you, buddy.
Joe, get those sandals off your feet and get us out of here.